All right, a little segment idea here. We're going to go through the Premier League and give our mid-season review on where these teams stand right now after looking at the table in comparison to what we thought would happen going in or how they performed last year in the Prem as well. And we're going to start all the way up at number 1 and work our way all the way down to 20. Mid-season review, you can give a grade if you want. You can give whatever you want to do here. But mid-season review, Liverpool at 1. All I got to say is A+, man. Dude. A+.
And just to add to that, best team in the world right now. I really don't care what you have to say. There's not a better football club out there right now that's playing better football than Liverpool FC.
That's why I think, in a way, they've overexceeded expectations. New coach coming in, Arne Slot, and I didn't have them winning the Prem. I had Manchester City winning the Prem. You had Arsenal winning the Prem. I think that kind of shows where we stood going into the year on what Liverpool could achieve. After the year that they had last year, I thought there was maybe a little bit of a limitation on the team or an inability to really have that consistency that we've seen from them in past years. But they've absolutely proven us wrong in that aspect. They look incredible so far, with Mo Salah having a Ballon d'Or type year. And you can just go through every single player on the roster. Everyone's playing so well right now. What more is there to say beyond them being the best team in the world at this moment and easily the best team in the Prem, to the point where I do think they're now destined to lift it.
Yeah, and for me, the best managerial debut I've ever seen. The way Arne Slot has come in with a confidence and a very specific idea on how he wants to play football and how quickly he's been able to integrate his ideas into this team, I've never seen it. There's always some sort of grace period or a big reliance on maybe like big money signings, but everyone's come in, taken to Slot's style of football and has improved. They've improved individually, and they've come together to create this crazy team that I just don't think can really be beaten. On the day right now, I don't think there's a team that can beat Liverpool. Now, there are a lot of teams I think that can compete for sure, but Liverpool right now, there's a magic behind them. There's a driving force when, maybe it's because of their depth, but there's something about Liverpool that's just so aggressive. When they start moving that ball forward, it's almost impossible to stop, and they can hit you from any direction. You said a Ballon d'Or type season from Mohamed Salah. He's one of the best players in the world right now as well. Liverpool have so much going for them. Van Dijk looks better than ever as well. There's just so much to like about this Liverpool Football Club. They have a 6-point lead right now, game in hand as well. It could be 9.
Yeah, and that's why I want to glaze. I want to glaze here, but I want to be a little hesitant, kind of in the same tone of your Atleti take, where
oh fuck you, don't you dare.
It needs to end with trophies, bro. I mean, we're losing right now in the Carabao Cup, the Carabao Cup against Tottenham.
Bro, it's a league cup.
But we need that trophy.
Nah, you don't need it.
We can't not win.
You don't
need
a league.
If we're talking about Liverpool the way we're talking about them right now, we need to win that and the FA Cup as well, and the Prem. Champions League is the only one that I can really be like, all right, maybe we don't win it because of how good teams can be in that tournament, but we have to win the domestic trophies, bro. And that's why I'm a little not even hesitant. I'm just like, I'm gonna agree with you fully in terms of Arne Slot being in the midst of the best managerial debut ever. But we're only halfway through the year, man. Once the trophies come, I'm on board completely.
I saw it already, bro.
What do you mean, bro?
I saw it, dude.
Saw what?
I saw the future, man. It's already done, man. We can already just start giving our awards for the season.
Oh man,
it's nuts.
Oh man, let's go over to Arsenal, man. Arsenal at number 2. Given the way that they look coming into the year, what they went through last year, competing for the title against Manchester City, what's the grade on Arsenal this time around?
It's weird because they're in second place.
Yep.
I don't know. I kind of want to be a little harsh here. I want to say like B- almost, and that might be a little harsh. Maybe I could entertain a B+. But I had Arsenal winning the league at the very beginning of the season without seeing a ball kicked. And the reason why is because Arteta has built this juggernaut of a football club over the last 3 seasons, and it has nearly culminated in glory. Now, obviously, Manchester City has been in the way. I don't really blame anybody there. Last season was, by far their best year ever. And it still didn't end in silverware. So I thought they were going to use that as motivation to say, all right, we have everybody here. We're getting better. We bought Calafiori. We've improved our backline. Timber's back from injury. We're technically a better team now going into the season. Let's use that. Let's win the league. And they're 6 points off now. And there's been so many times throughout the season where they just simply falter. They're clearly the second best team on that day. And that can't happen multiple times if you're trying to win the league when there's Liverpool playing the way that they're playing, or, teams like Man City in the past. They'd be walking all over this Arsenal performance this season. And that's why I want to be a little harsher, because Arsenal have the team to win the league, and they're just simply not competing with the best. And so I think they're just underperforming.
I want to be critical. Because by this point, I compare their rise a little bit to what Liverpool had going in the first early years under Klopp, where you start to see a really fiery and dangerous offense and overall team performance that by this point had culminated in some trophies for Jurgen Klopp. For Arteta, it's one trophy, and it's an FA Cup back in 2021, bro. That's it. Yeah. That's it. Couldn't even get a Europa League when he was in the tournament. Got knocked out by Sporting CP. Hasn't been able to get an FA Cup or Carabao Cup either. And although they have challenged very well and very admirably against Manchester City in these past 3-4 years in the title race, not enough, man. Just not enough. And once again, I think they're going to fall short once again. Their inability to make the jump when it should have happened last year, when it should have happened this year, is why I'm critical of them right now. They're a great team. If you just look at them and you watch them play against teams that are below them, they're a great team. They're fun to watch at times as well. But I think that inability to get over the hump and get those trophies when they have had the squad that I think can earn them is a little bit of a criticism I have of Arteta, and also just the team performance overall. They get shaky in those big matches, and they ultimately end up getting exposed. And it's why I guess my grade for them would be like a C+ now. If I'll give them a little bit of merit here because they haven't faltered the way that Manchester City has this year, but bro, this team should be doing so much more, man. So much more. And I would hope that maybe in the Champions League they can showcase that and go deeper than what's expected of them, because that's really the only tournament I see them being potential, having that chance of maybe surprising.
Yeah, if Saka's not scoring goals, you have to really entice Havertz or Jesus to get it for you. I didn't think it was going to go that way. I thought they were going to really find their form this year and just bring their individual brilliance and max it out. Just hasn't happened. It hasn't happened. Odegaard's injury really hurt Arsenal. Really hurt them. He cannot miss a game. And I think that's a crucial reliance that they have on Odegaard that may be a little negative. And then, defensively, we noted it earlier in the season. Saliba and Gabriel they've gone down a notch. Yeah. And it just all comes together for Arsenal to, be a lot farther in the title race than they would like to be.
Yeah, and at number 3, I think we have the story of the season, the story of the league with Nottingham Forest at number 3, 40 points, tied with Arsenal. This is just one of the best stories in all of Europe, in my opinion. A+ for them. They've absolutely overachieved.
Nottingham Forest is why I watch football. It's literally the only reason. If you notice, I have a tendency to, not fall in love with the bigger teams on this channel, though I will always praise them when praise is due. But I watch football for these stories because I truly believe that when you bring 11 players and you put them in the exact system that they need to be put in, they can beat anybody. Nottingham Forest are almost that. They're almost that. I don't think they're truly that. But the fact that they've gotten this close, they're 40 points right now, tied for second place, 6 points, maybe 9 behind Liverpool. My God. And when you watch them play, you can see this team they're built different, man. They're completely above most other Premier League sides, whether it's just the resilience, their mentality. Something's different about this Nottingham Forest side. It's so beautiful to watch. They have a big game Tuesday. They have a big game, and they win that match, bro. Oof. They're playing against Liverpool on Tuesday. Oh my God! Imagine. I get worried though because when they did play Arsenal, they got whooped, bro.
And City too.
And City. Yeah. So this is gonna be a very big test. What I will say for Nottingham, what has really surprised me, when they did get soundly beaten by those teams, they immediately bounce back. Immediately. You do not see that in world football. When teams that have a really good streak, when they shouldn't, they get beaten, you genuinely see them spiral. Yeah. Not Nottingham Forest, at least not yet. It's beautiful to see. Here's something crazy, bro. Leicester City, when they won the league that magical year, they had 40 points with 20 games in, just like Nottingham Forest.
No way.
Yep.
Wow, man.
Isn't that crazy?
And it's great. If it wasn't for this insane Liverpool side, they would probably be competing for first place right now, man.
Isn't that crazy?
It's insane.
Bro? It's nuts. I'm very nervous for Tuesday, but when I watch Nottingham, it is Leicester-esque, bro, because this squad does not have a single star on it.
Really.
There's not a star, but there's stars in the making. I've been talking about Morgan Gibbs-White this whole season. He's must-watch TV, one of the best footballers out there, and he really showcases his talent. He's so dynamic when he plays. But then you look at guys like Elanga, for example. Like, I mean, he's not really that flary of a player, but dude, his work rate, ridiculous. In the 60th minute, this last game I saw it when they played Wolves, he got the ball. He's like, you know what, fuck it. I'm just going to take him on one-on-one. And Elanga has that ability.
Yeah, bro.
A lot of players out there in the Premier League right now, you know, they don't really showcase that determination, but Elanga brings that. He has a confidence that I think a lot of wingers don't have. He may not have the skill set, but that confidence brings up his skill level. And I think you could really bring that out to a lot of this Nottingham team. Maybe they're not the best skill-wise, but their confidence, their belief in each other is bringing them to another level, bro. Very curious to see what they can do against Liverpool, but I still think Liverpool are going to get the victory.
Absolutely, bro. Nuno Espirito Santo, one of the best coaches this year in the Prem by far. What he has done has been incredible. Let's go over to fourth place where we have Chelsea. Chelsea at 36 points so far after 20 games this year. Not bad when you compare it to how they've been in years past.
Exactly. I mean, they've been mid-table for the last couple of seasons. For this take, I just want to talk to Chelsea fans, man. I want to know what they're thinking, because I remember at the beginning of the season, they were ruthless on the signing of Enzo Maresca as the head coach. They were like, why don't we just keep Pochettino? He seems to, you know, have figured it out somewhat at the end of last season. Why didn't we get Hansi Flick? And is this the right team? Is Mikel Mudryk going to do anything? You know, why do we have 40 players registered at the beginning of the season? But they're in fourth place, and you know they've been good. They've had a bad couple of weeks. They've dropped a lot of points over this Christmas holiday break, and I think that's the ceiling of this Chelsea side. They're a bit Arsenal-esque in the sense that when they play against a team that really bunkers in, they can't figure it out. You know, they don't have a lot of goal scorers, much like Arsenal, because you know you look at players like Madueke. They've been very good, but are they clinical in front of goal? I've already criticized Jackson as not being a clinical goal scorer. He's very much like Darwin Nunez. Jadon Sancho's never really been a goal scorer. Pedro Neto's never really been a goal scorer. You'll find this common theme amongst this Chelsea side. Amazing football, but that end product sometimes just isn't there. And I think that's why they're not really in the title race. But this is good beginnings if you think of this as a longer project. I still think they need to figure out the center back situation, but fourth place, all things considered, pretty good. But yes, they've spent over £1 billion.
These last 4 games, I don't like it. I don't like it because when I finally gave them the credit that a lot of Chelsea fans have been wanting me to give, they went on that losing streak that really disappointed me. Disappointed because they were in second place going into that point. I thought they were clearly the second best team in the Prem, but just a weird run that they just went on that I think kind of showcases the little bit of the flaws that I was worried about with this Chelsea team. They can punch pretty high right now, but that consistency level hasn't been shown because they don't have that experience, honestly. They don't know what it's like to really compete for the second place position in the Premier League. Arsenal are masters at that, right? And so I think that's why they occupy that space right now. For Chelsea, I just need to find more consistency and overall just continue trusting Enzo Maresca's plan because it's working out and they can play at a very high level when they're locked in. At fifth place, we have, surprisingly in my opinion, Newcastle United with 35 points after the year they had last year. I think this is a positive given that, you know, people expected much more from them a year ago, and they seem to finally kind of be figuring that out a little bit more, at least in a little bit better fashion than what they did a year ago.
I just don't know what happened last year. And obviously we do know because we got to see the product of Newcastle. It was very labored. There wasn't any creativity in the midfield. Their offensive line, which was so exhilarating 2 seasons ago, suddenly stopped scoring. But it's the same guys. But, you know, plus Anthony Gordon, sure. Tonali's back from his ban. I think that's actually been huge, allowing Guimaraes and Joelinton to have a more freedom creatively, offensively in that midfield. That's actually been big. Outside of Tonali's impact, though, everyone's just in form now. And I think this is Newcastle. When their team is flying the way that they are right now, Isak, my God, bro. I mean, so clinical in front of goal. When they're in form, I think Newcastle is a top 4, top 5 side in the Prem, as they proved 2 seasons ago. What a weird blip last year, but this is the potential of Newcastle. I'm happy to see that they've quickly fixed it after one bad season.
Yeah, I think they have 5th place right now. Very impressive. I'm going to go B+ for them. I want to see if they can crack into that top 4 by the end of the year. A point behind Chelsea. The opportunity is right there, but I wonder if Nottingham Forest slows down, or Arsenal, could they potentially end the year in 2nd place? It's there. It's up for grabs if they want it. I just also need to see consistency from them, and I do like them so far. They've been a fun team to check up on, because every time I watch their goals and the moments, and Anthony Gordon and Isak, like, they're scoring some really high quality goals, man. They really are. So Newcastle United looking good so far. Where we're not looking very good is at number 6, because we have my title pick going into the year and many people's title picks, Manchester City, in 6th place after a tumultuous past 2-3 months where Pep Guardiola saw one of the worst runs of form that a team that he's managed has gone under. It has been complete craze for this Manchester City side as they now remain in sole position of 6th place, man, out of any sort of European action if the season were to end today.
It's unbelievable. We've gone through 5 teams and we haven't said the word Manchester City, bro.
That's unreal, man.
It doesn't make any sense.
Well, it makes sense. Now it makes a lot of sense.
I somewhat, and I don't want to give any credit here, but I want to somewhat say I did anticipate a drop in performance for Manchester City this season. That's why I didn't have them winning the league. I did not know it would reach this bad of performances, though. I mean, they've gone off a cliff, bro. Every single player's completely crashed out. Like, I don't know what's going on. It's a mentality issue. The players just don't seem as invigorated to work to cover the same amount of space that Pep Guardiola demands of you. And the product you get is just a team that's broken, man. Yeah. They're broken. And it doesn't look like it's going to really get fixed anytime soon. Obviously, they still have quality class players that can compete against most teams, and that'll be the interesting thing about Manchester City. But against teams that are better than them, bro, City ain't winning.
Nope.
They ain't winning, bro. So this is going to be just shocking to see. I think for them, can they even crack the top 4 now? That's their goal. Can they get a 4th, 3rd place finish? It's possible, but I honestly don't see it happening with the way that Newcastle and Chelsea are playing.
They shouldn't. They don't deserve it. They could, though, because it's Manchester City, and like they can get these wins when they need them, but I don't want them to end in the top 4 or even the top 5. I would love for them to end out of European action completely. And for me, it is a mentality thing. I think truly when you look at it, the players aren't invested anymore. And I think in a way, I kind of do understand them, because losing Rodri that early on in the season, the Ballon d'Or winner, the central point, the nucleus of this team, I think kind of affected everybody else and was like, we really can't reach our best version if we don't have him on the pitch. Yeah. I can see why they would be performing at this level, at least mentality-wise. And they are missing pieces as well. Based off what we're seeing in the transfer market, they're already looking to get players to replace players that I think have dropped in form and quality. But overall, it's just a mess that I think started with that absence of Rodri, and it just completely spiraled into an avalanche of losses for this team. I don't want them to get European action, and that'd be insane to see, man. That really would. 7th place, we have a team that would be crazy if they can get into that top 4, top 5 position. Bournemouth, my friend. Bournemouth here in 7th place. This is incredible.
Bournemouth are very much like Nottingham in the sense that they are so well defined. Their center backs Zabarni and Huijsen have been phenomenal this year. They've really established themselves as probably one of the better center back pairings in the Premier League, and it really shows with how stout and organized Bournemouth are defensively. And then you have guys like Milos Kerkez in that left back position, really growing into his own, being very good on the ball, being able to play good combination passes. And then up top, you know, I really thought Solanke was going to be a big miss, but they've managed to somehow make their offense very, very efficient yet still. But unlike Forest, I still think they struggle for goals against very, very tight teams. And I think that's why Bournemouth are in 7th place. I think at times, Bournemouth's offense just isn't as fluid as the teams that are above them. So I think it'll be tough for Bournemouth to really crack into a European position, but they are right there. Right there. So it is possible.
Yeah, they're ballers, man. Evan Nielsen, Kerkez in that fullback position, the 19-year-old center back whose name I can't say, Hjolsen or whatever. That guy's incredible.
Great.
I love the team. I really do. And I agree. They give me that Nottingham Forest type of energy, especially when they host a game. Their fans are so invested. Yeah. It's such a fun atmosphere to see. And I'm wishing them the best. If we have Bournemouth fans watching, wishing y'all the best. best. I hope to watch a game one day, actually, because I really do like their atmosphere and their stadium.
They're a great club.
Yeah.
What they do with the little money that they have, they've been so good in the Prem for so long.
Yeah. Speaking of money, we got Aston Villa. Aston Villa, who has spent some money this past summer transfer window and has now achieved the prestigious status of 8th place, man. 8th place for a team that I think spent so much and was looking to go on a little bit of a rise after what they did last year, qualifying for Champions League action. 8th place is a little bit of a disappointment here.
It's so disappointing, man. For me, tease of the season, because their offense can be so brilliant at times, and it's so aggressive. Mm-hmm. You see John Duran scoring bangers left and right. Watkins has had a poor season. I think that's been a big reason why maybe Villa hasn't been as good. But I think more importantly, why they're in 8th place, and I mentioned it a couple weeks ago, is their defense, man.
Yeah.
It's their defense. Their center back pairings, whether it's Konza, Pau Torres, they can't figure it out.
Torres has disappointed me, man.
Super
I thought he would transition so well from La Liga to the Prem, but he constantly gets exposed.
Constantly,
bro.
He has not ever improved into a very good center back. When he was at Villarreal, he had the potential to be that, but he's never actually flourished as a really good center back. He's maintained like a sophomore level, and it's very disappointing to see. And then again, the fullback positions. Lucas Digne, he's good. He's not great. And you get the same thing with Matty Cash. He might even be more subpar. So that whole back line, Diego Carlos is good, but he can't do it alone. It's just not enough for Villa. They get exposed in every single match. And if their offense isn't scoring, they're losing the match.
Yeah, I think it's a disappointment, man. It's a disappointment being 8th place right now. I guess the caveat is that there is another half of the season left, and they have the capabilities to lock in and be a better team for the next second half. I want to be optimistic about this Aston Villa side. I really do, because I think they can reach some really good heights when they play very well, but there's been a lot of close calls this entire season where they've dropped points where they shouldn't have, and then there's been moments where they defeat some really feisty and impressive teams. I just need to see that consistency, and I'll bash them even harder if they end the season below 8th, man.
Yeah,
if they ended in 9th or 10th, I'm going to be done with this team. I'm hoping for them to improve and see a little bit more of a rise in the second half of the year, man.
I've lost faith in them.
You've lost it?
I've lost it.
Okay. Well, fair enough. Let's see where we're going with number 9 at Fulham. We got Fulham here. Overall impressive?
I think this is where they're supposed to be, right in mid-table. They're a feisty team, and we see it. We saw that game against Liverpool. We've seen it occasionally throughout the season where they really punch above their weight. They have really good players. Anthony Robinson, probably one of the better attacking fullbacks, not just for Fulham, but in the Premier League. He's very good to watch. But you got players like Raul Jimenez scoring really good goals, finding his form in front of goal. The midfield that Fulham have with Andres Pereira has actually been very fluid. Yeah. So I think for Fulham, this is exactly where they deserve to be. They're a mid-table side. They just can't consistently play above their weight, and I think that's why they are mid-table.
Yeah, I'm going to go impressive here, because you still got teams like Tottenham not here. You got teams like Manchester United who spend more money than Fulham. And I think Fulham has overachieved, not overachieved, but rather lived up to what they should be. So I agree in that aspect. But I think it's impressive because last year they finished in 13th place, being 4 spots higher without that much of an investment financially, or rather the money that you didn't invest, like guys in Emil Smith Rowe, like I don't think has completely changed the team as it is. They're really playing at this level with the players that they've already had. Raul Jimenez having his resurgence this year. Anthony Robinson playing at an insane level too. I think overall the team has proven their worth very well, and I think have earned and deserved that 9th place position. And so for that reason, I'm going to give them more credit here. It's a tough thing to do that in the Prem and to maintain that consistency. They've done great so far. I want to see them hold on to that 9th place spot. I don't see them going higher though. I don't.
Yeah.
My beautiful Brighton in 10th place with 28 points after 20 games. Are you about to be harsh on this team?
I just never buy into them, and I think I said that in September. Brighton are fun to watch, but if you try to invest yourself in them, you're just going to get teased.
You're going to get hurt.
You're going to get hurt. What's fun about Brighton is the individual talent that they have. You look at their midfield, man, and my God, dude, they have some studs. And it's a gold mine because these players will sell for a lot of money. Yeah, they all will. O'Reilly's been fantastic. Ayari, the Swede, who I was really curious to see how he translated his game. Coming straight from the Swedish league, he's been fantastic, man. You still have players like Carlos Baleba playing really good football. Mitoma as well, just dancing on that left sideline. Minte, when he is healthy, very direct. Joao Pedro is actually a great, hard-working 9. Together, though, it just doesn't work. It's too much fluff without any real product. Great to see, brilliant on the eye, but it doesn't lead to anything. Mid-table,
man. And I think what I'm noticing about Brighton is the lack of a core that they can truly build on. You're right. They have a lot of good individual talent, but they rotate players out a lot, man, because of these studs that they find, because of the players that the scouts are discovering. I almost feel like they're obligated to give minutes to players, which is great to see because you see they're skilled on display and they can lead to some positive results. But I think there's a limitation with that sort of approach to the team where I just don't see that same consistency within like a solid starting 5 or 6 players that are always there and playing at a high level. And that worries me because last year they finished, I believe, in 11th place. This year they're in 10th. They're kind of on the same track of doing the same thing once again after what was their impressive year two seasons ago where they finished in 6th place. Been hoping for that same sort of performance. They're not going to get there, man. They're not, and I think that's why I'm a little disappointed in Brighton because of the way that we've seen them thrive in the Prem with such little money in comparison to other big clubs. Now they kind of have had that money for the past 2 years, not seeing much growth or improvement in the table, and I think that's a disappointment.
It is disappointing. You would hope that it would culminate to something, some sort of consistency, being in that upper mid-table, but it just hasn't. It just hasn't. Very, very disappointing to see, especially when you have players like Mitoma. Like, he's just one of the best dribblers in the league, but low key maybe being wasted there.
Maybe, man.
Low key.
Maybe. You could say that for a good number of players. You really could. Brentford at 11th. Thomas Frank's Brentford side is actually mid-table. And I'm going to just say, bro, I think this is impressive because this team has been picked apart. Not in terms of transfers, but in terms of on the field, they get exposed time in, time out. I'm seeing scorelines where they can see 3-4 goals. But at the same time, they have guys like Mbeumo cooking up goals, scoring for this team, keeping them in matches, and at the end of the day, getting results and points needed so that they avoid being in that relegation battle. And I think given how they played this year, that's a plus.
Brentford, and this is actually a compliment, they're the most mid-team ever.
Yeah.
Like, they're so mid that they're destined for mid-table. But it's brilliant to watch because they virtually have no money. They were almost completely inactive in the transfer window. And when you look at the Premier League, there's so much money. Most teams spend a lot of money. Brentford don't. They really don't. They just get these Danish players that aren't worth a lot, and Thomas Frank gets the absolute best out of them. It's crazy because I think Brentford have reached their ceiling. If you look at Chelsea, they haven't reached their ceiling. Their ceiling is winning the league. Okay. Brentford have reached it, bro, and it's 10th, 11th place, right in the middle of the Premier League. That's hard to do when you consider the talent that they have or don't have.
I think the comparison of who's right below them shows like. Tottenham's under them. Yeah. They played better than Tottenham, man. That's insane. I'm not saying Tottenham's this gargantuan side, but I mean financially they are. In comparison to what they have, their resources and even the talent itself. Like, that's insane. Thomas Frank is pulling off a masterclass here, man, in my opinion, the way that we've seen them play. So credit to Brentford staying in the Prem once again. And I just hope that they maintain this role for the next 10 years, just being that mid-table team that just has that feisty factor and a great coach to just guide them to important games, important results to keep them in the league. Let's talk Tottenham.
Man.
12th place.
My God, dude.
12th place. 12th place, man. This is bad. I think this is bad.
So bad.
This is really bad.
What's crazy is they've scored 42 goals.
Is that the most in the league?
It's the second most. Behind the best next offense, which is Liverpool, right? So you would think that they would be somewhere in a top 4, top 5 conversation, but bro, 12th? Are you kidding me? I mean, honestly, like, this is a failing grade. You can't have this type of offense when you have players like still a very good, efficient Heung-min Son. Kulusevski, I think, has actually really stepped up this season offensively. James Maddison has been brilliant offensively, but it completely breaks down in the possession aspect of their midfield. And then defensively, they've had a couple of injuries that have really hurt them. Ange Postecoglou just hasn't adapted to their defensive woes, and he continues to play this very high-paced offense, but you got to adapt game to game, and he's just simply not. Tottenham are getting exposed almost on a weekly basis.
What would you say is Postecoglou's most impressive victory with Tottenham in the time that he's been there? Is there one that pops up to mind, man? They just beat Liverpool in the domestic cup. Is that it?
It's tough to say that they've had a big game because it never culminates in a Champions League spot. It doesn't culminate in winning an FA Cup. It doesn't really lead to anything. They're not in Europe, you're right. They're not getting big games to where it means anything. So they'll get the occasional big victory, but none of it's consistent. It's not consistent. That's why they're in 12th place.
That doesn't mean anything, man.
It doesn't mean
what I'm
anything.
getting at, because they've beaten Manchester City, I think, under Postecoglou multiple times now. But, you look at where Manchester City is right now. They did it in the midst of one of their worst runs, and it just didn't mean anything. Winning those games, it didn't put them in European contention. It just was a victory, and then they go on to lose to Brighton or Brentford in the following games. I'm almost out on Postecoglou specifically, man. That's kind of what I'm getting at. I feel like he should have a little bit more pressure on him, or at least more on the hot seat, because, yes, they've had injuries. I do agree with that aspect, at least defensively, and it has shown to be an important part of why they are on the run that they're on right now.
Yeah.
But, man, I haven't seen an truly impressive performance or run from Postecoglou with Tottenham so far. Whereas even with, like, Amorim, maybe I've seen more. At least a little bit more of what he's working with. So, for me, 12th place for Tottenham specifically is terrible, bro. I'd say worse than Manchester United being in 13th place, because we know who this Manchester United team is.
Oh, yeah.
It makes sense for them, bro.
Oh,
but
yeah.
for Tottenham, they should be definitely a few spots higher.
Oh, yeah. 12th place is pathetic for a club like Tottenham when you consider the players that they have and what they're valued at. 12th place is pathetic, dude. F grade for me.
F grade. And so what's the grade on Manchester United? 13th place.
I don't know, like a D plus, man. It's so poor, bro. But you just alluded to it, man. You look at their squad. You look at their starting 11, and you compare it to Newcastle's. And let's say you're trying to make a Newcastle Manchester United 11.
Okay.
It's going to be mainly Newcastle players, bro. And that's the reality. Manchester United, their squad that they've built over the last 5-6 seasons with their scouts, is a mid team. There's a couple of stars. I'm looking at Bruno Fernandes for sure. Amad Diallo seems to be a star in the making, but that's the thing. He's not established whatsoever. You could say the same thing about Garnacho. Garnacho can't get consistent minutes in a starting position. He's got a lot of flair, a lot of drive, but can he do it on a week-to-week basis? No. Is Gordon a better player? Yes. Yeah. Is Alexander Isak a better striker than Kjolund? By leaps and bounds, my friend. And you look at the central midfield. I mean, I'm picking Joe Wellington, I'm picking Tonali, I'm picking Bruno Guimaraes over any of the Manchester United midfielders. Kobbie Mainoo's a good talent. You compare him to any other player that's above Manchester United right now, I'm not picking any United players, bro. So the fact that they're in 13th place, it makes sense to me. It's why when Amorim got picked, I'm like, okay, like it's going to take a lot for a coach to bring these players out of the hole that they're in, because it's not a coaching problem. It's a player problem. It's an executive problem with the players that they're picking. So United, mid-club.
Mid-club, man. Mid-club. I think about a team that used to occupy 13th place routinely in the Prem, Crystal Palace. I think this team kind of compares to Crystal Palace level side, man, with some exciting players here and there, but not much else beyond that. Mid-table talent on full display in the league, it just hasn't been right for them, and it's going to be a tough task for Amorim to overcome. He's going to have to sell off a lot of this talent to then be able to replace it with what I would envision would be his own personal picks, and I would hope that ends up providing a more positive and better environment around the team and better talent overall. There's a lot of work to do here for Manchester United, and I think if you're a Manchester United fan, you're just looking towards next season to see what Amorim can do with a full off season and then a whole year to really work and revamp this squad. 14th place, West Ham.
West Ham suck, man.
Yeah, but they suck.
They suck. I hate watching them play.
Yep.
Their talent is a little bit deceitful because, they have players like Kudus, for example, and he is a really good individual talent. And then, they've had players there that have been there for a while and have been a part of really good West Ham seasons, like Souček, for example. But this team, they're just not a team. That's the thing. Like they're struggling. The only reason why they win is because they're just playing against weaker opposition when they do win. But 14th place, there are 13 teams better than them. Every time West Ham play those teams, they're losing. Yeah. Every single time. There's nothing positive about West Ham's style of football, really. They don't really seem to have an identity either. If I'm a West Ham fan, I'm depressed.
You're depressed because I think that the reality has now set. There was a moment in time where people would go into a season and think, West Ham maybe cracks into the top 10 this year. Maybe they're a feisty team. Maybe they're that team that can get 6th or 7th place. The way that they did to get European Conference League qualification, then went on to win that tournament. There was a time where West Ham was that team, and it was an exciting time. But it was short-lived because ever since they won that trophy and lost Declan Rice specifically, they have been on a downward spiral, finishing off in 9th place last year, now in 14th this year. And I don't see it getting any better, man, with the level that they've reached. I think they also need to endure a little bit of a change as well with their core players. I think we've seen the best of them. I think it's time maybe you move on from Jared Bowen, incredible player, but I do think he is in a way getting wasted there because he's a great player that can put up numbers in the Prem as well. I think it's time to kind of shift focus here for this West Ham team going into next year. Thankfully, they're not in a relegation battle. They've won enough to stay out of it, but mid-table team and a little worse beyond that. I think it's a tough time for West Ham fans because they must be realizing, it's going to be tough to go up from here in the following seasons.
Yeah, I like that. There's going to be a big transition period, I think, coming over the next couple of seasons for West Ham. They've made a lot of signings recently, but they need to take over the core of this side. I think the veterans need to slowly be phased out. Yeah, I really agree with that.
And in 15th place, we got a team that is just so accustomed to being within this range in the Premier League. It's the one and only Crystal Palace, my friend. Crystal Palace, once again, occupying 15th place. You can usually find them anywhere between 12 and 15 or even 16 if you're an avid Premier League watcher, year in, year out. Once again, doing what's expected with 15th place after losing, guys like Michael Olise in the offseason.
Yeah, 100%. I got excited with the way they ended last year, and I understand Olise was a big part of why they were so brilliant offensively. So I can't expect them to be as good, but 15th is kind of low, man. That's low, bro.
I think it's fitting, man.
And it's frustrating because the core players that ended the season so well last year are still here. I mean, Munoz, we saw how good he was for Colombia. Last year, you also have Jefferson Lerma as well. They're here, and they're playing good football. But you also have players like Ismail Assar, who, has never really been a consistent player, but there's that potential. I thought Mateta maybe would come into his own fully this year, but none of it has really worked for Palace. Not that I would have put money on it for it to, but I was just hoping. So, it's just a little bit of hope that wasn't fulfilled. But yeah, you're right. You can't do that with Palace because this is where they belong, anywhere between 12th and 15th.
Yeah, and still, I would say comfortably out of the relegation battle with a 4-point gap between them and the next team. I mean, it's if you knew that going into the year, is actually looking pretty good, in my opinion. I would say this is looking pretty on par what you thought would happen if you were aware of what was going to happen. I don't think you had hope going into this year, man. I don't think, at least with Crystal Palace.
Eze, man? No, come on. No, Matete, Eze were
They're solid, but it's kind of like every team above them has better players.
Yeah.
And the Prem is full of quality players. I don't doubt that they have that, but as a team, they don't have that same level of cohesion that we've seen, bro. So I just don't see them finishing anywhere above 15th. I think if they get 14th or 13th, it's a dub, man. It's a win.
100%.
And 16th place is an interesting one because they're starting to get used to being in this zone, man. They're starting to get used to being in the zone. And my God, has it been a stressful time for Everton fans these last 3-4 years. Constant relegation battle.
I can't believe they haven't been relegated yet.
Unreal.
I can't believe it. Their season last year surprised the hell out of me. I could not believe the season they had with the players that they had. This season's making a lot more sense with the way that they're struggling. Sean Dyche using his classic relegation survival tactics. And I mean, honestly, it has worked. They're above the relegation zone. They just sacked him, though.
Yeah, I'm surprised.
They just sacked. I'm surprised, too, because I do think he would have survived it.
Yeah.
I think he would have gotten them another year in the Prem. Barely, but I think he would have done it now with a new manager coming in. I'm not so sure. I'm not so sure, especially when you look at a team like Wolves, which we'll talk about. Maybe there's some flip-flopping that might occur at the bottom of this table. If you're Everton, you're biting your nails because I don't know how the season ends for them.
Yeah, and if I'm honest, I hope it ends in relegation.
Fuck,
I hope, because
Jesus.
I think there's
coming
a
from
more
a Liverpool fan.
I'm a little bit more. I find a team like Ipswich, for example, a little bit more likable. And they're only a point behind them right now. And I would hope for them to stay in the Prem one more year. I think Everton, at this point, in a way, deserves to be relegated after the close calls they've had. They've gotten very lucky, and I give them credit because they have pulled out some incredible results out of their asses in these past few years. We get like, holy shit, like when they needed to win to stay alive, they have done it time and time again. I won't forget that Decore goal. I think it was last year that gave them the victory to win 2-1. I can't remember who, but it was a beautiful goal. I was like, holy shit, everything's going to do it. They're going to stay up. And I think it's that, that Premier League aura that accompanies them of never being relegated in the past that I think is kind of carrying them in these really tight situations. But at some point, bro, it has to end. It has to end at some point, man. God. And I would think that it happens this year if they continue playing at this level, because I agree. I think Sean Dyche would have kept them up. With the new coach, it's a little bit scarier. But to be fair, they do have a game in hand, I'm just now saying.
Okay, that could help them. What if they get relegated and then they sell all their players? They just get a bunch of championship level players and then get relegated again.
Oh, shit.
Yeah. Everton, from one of the most storied teams, never been relegated before.
Yep.
Suddenly in third division.
Good God. I don't want that.
I don't know. It seems like you might want that, bro.
I don't want that, bro. I don't. I like Everton in the Prem. I just want them to actually be able to compete, man. I like when Everton's a feisty team. I do. Right now, they
haven't been feisty for so long.
No, man. No.
For so long.
And so now we have Wolves in 17th place with 16 points as well. Did they not endure a coaching change as well, too?
Vitor Pereira has come in after sacking O'Neill, and he actually was unbeaten his first 3 games.
Wow.
Yeah, he actually had a great start to life for Wolves. I saw this crazy stat. I'm going to get this completely wrong, but it was something like O'Neill in his last 20 games only got like 16 points. Oof. Pereira in his first 4 games has gotten 7.
Wow.
Or 8, or half the points in only 4 matches. So it's like something ridiculous like that. So Pereira has come in, he's made a huge impact on this Wolves side. And when you look at this squad, man, this team should not be relegated, bro. You have Mateus Cunha, honestly, probably one of the better attackers in the Premier League. He's on this side. And when he's healthy, he's getting a goal every other game. You have that type of talent in this side. Nuri, for example, really good center back / fullback that they have at their disposal. But then you have, really good midfielders as well. There's something here on this Wolves side that should not allow them to get relegated. Pereira might be the guy to make sure that they don't.
I would hope that they don't.
No.
I would hope that they don't. I think they had good moments, and I agree. Mateus Cunha, the talent that he is has been insane. He's having a crazy season.
Crazy.
I want to keep watching that, so I'm hoping for the best for Wolves here, because now we're in the relegation zone, and we got 3 teams that are fighting for their lives. One of which I think has already, accepted their fate, which we'll get to at number 20. But at number 18 and 19, we have 2 teams fighting. At number 18. Ipswich Town, newly promoted side, fighting for their lives, but honestly, looking pretty good in the sense of what could have happened for them in the first 20 games was what is happening right now to Southampton. And instead, they're fighting, bro. They're fighting, and they enter the second half of the season with an actual opportunity to survive the Premier League.
Yeah, they're right there. They're right on level with points with Wolves outside of the relegation zone. And I love this team, man. They're fun to watch. Nothing crazy,
nope.
But they work hard, man. They work really hard. Hutchinson's a really good talent, but then you also have really good signings that they made to try to stay in the Premier League with like Smodic and Delap as well, who have gotten some really important goals for Ipswich throughout this mid-season campaign for them. So will they survive? I just don't know. I think it's going to come down to Everton.
Yeah.
I really do. But they've put themselves, as you said, I think in the best position that they possibly could. And I hope they fight. I hope they fight for their goddamn lives.
Yeah, man.
Bro.
I know.
I want to see it happen. I want to see Ipswich survive 1 year in the Prem, considering they're such a small club.
Yes, completely agree. So because of that, I'm going to go like B minus, B plus, maybe.
Yeah,
even.
sure,
Like this
sure.
is. I thought they would be getting dusted out here, and they're actually fighting. They have a chance. 19th place, Leicester City, 14 points. They've conceded 44 goals. It's one of the worst conceded amounts in the Prem, and they've only scored 23. Leicester struggling here as they're 2 points behind Ipswich at the moment.
Yeah, Leicester's weird because they have such exciting talent with players like Bonanotte, Fatau as well. They have some really good pace and skill on the wings. But that central play, whether it's in the midfield or just defensively, it's wide open, bro. And if you're a team that's above 15th place in the Prem, you're beating Leicester City every single time. Leicester make it interesting with their offensive talents, but over the course of 90 minutes, bro, Leicester's just not going to win. They're not. So I have Leicester as definitively getting relegated. I just don't really see them getting out unless both Everton and Wolves completely crash out.
Yeah.
Which is, I could see one of those teams completely crashing out and maybe Leicester leapfrog Ipswich and somehow finish in 17th place. I could maybe see that happening, but I would rather Ipswich survive.
Yeah, absolutely. No, absolutely. I think it ends here for Leicester. I think it does. I think it's just really tough to see them get 3 points out of a match, man. I've seen them play, and they don't have a great offense. They don't, and their defense isn't good enough either. It's very, very leaky, whereas at least Ipswich, I think, is a little bit better defensively than Leicester. So I have Leicester getting relegated, and most certainly getting relegated is the one and only Southampton in contention for one of the worst seasons in the Premier League with, after 20 games, 6 points total, 1 single victory.
Depression is what you get when you think about Southampton. If you know any Southampton fans, please give them a call.
Absolutely.
Man, because my God, what a brutal beating they take week in, week out. It got particularly bad over these last 4 weeks where they're just conceding like crazy. Substitutions are being made in the 24th minute.
God.
It's getting ugly out there for Southampton, bro.
God.
But at this point, if I'm anyone in the Premier League, not Southampton, I'm looking at what pieces I can try to get for a good deal. Because I'm looking at players like Dibbling, bro.
Absolutely.
I'm a big fan of this player, bro. 19 years old. He's their best player by far offensively. He's got some really good dribble penetration skills. And I think he could definitely have a really good career in the Prem. It's not going to be with Southampton. Nope. So if you're a Southampton fan, enjoy these last moments with Dibbling, bro, because he's gone. He's gone at the end of this season,
dipping.
bro.
Dibbling is dipping. And I mean, bro, I'm looking at their numbers and it's terrifying. 1 single victory, 16 losses. They can't tie, bro. That's the problem. They can't even get draws. They need to be able to do that if you're in a relegation battle. And then 12 goals scored, man.
Ooh.
12. Less than a goal a game, man. That's awful when you think about what these fans have to endure. 90 minutes. If you're actually watching Southampton, it's a very tough task, man, because you're not getting at even a little bit of offensive excitement the way that Ipswich or even Wolves is giving you. Even Leicester's got Vardy still active. You know, there's something to see there. But 12 goals, bro, that's tough. That is so tough. So rest in peace to Southampton. They're going to get relegated, and they're ultimately going to have... What sort of grade here? C minus? Because, I mean, it's kind of a given.
It is a given.
It is.
It is, yeah. You know what?
I thought they'd be better, though.
Let's say B minus.
Yeah.
Let's be nice to them.
Sure.
They're going to endure crazy relegation. It's going to be brutal for them.
Those are our mid-season review, folks. Let us know your grades of these Premier League sides halfway through the year. Where do you stand on Arsenal, Everton, Liverpool? Give us your grades because, man, we have some fun narratives and some very depressing ones as well happening in England.